Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Gold Giant Podcast. I'm your host, Gerell.
And I'm your host, Jose. Hello.
So, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about Orangetown and Syrup Village, the story arcs for those. Orangetown covers chapters 8 through 21 of the manga and episodes 4 through 8 of the anime. We're going to talk about that one first, of course. And this one's real good. We're introduced to all sorts of concepts about the world of One Piece, some interesting information about devil fruits, a little bit of backstory about Shanks, but we'll get to that in a second. So we open with Luffy and Zoro adrift at sea. Apparently they both have zero navigational skills and are in need of a navigator. So Zoro kind of just follows who's ever in front of him from place to place. Luffy just drifts and lets the current take him wherever. Not a very wise thing to do, trying to navigate the
Yeah,
seas.
I think both are very capable fighters and have their strengths, but as actual pirates, they're still learning because I think they don't even had food or water at this point, did they? Like,
They
or
didn't. They really didn't have
yeah,
a lot of provisions or anything. They're real noobs when it comes to seafaring and sailing.
yeah.
In
Which
fact,
actually, funny enough, that was I guess the next point of the next cause and effect in which they were trying to get food with a bird flying nearby, but Luffy got caught in its beak and then flied away, separating from Zoro.
imagine how horrifying that must be to live in a world where there's giant animals like that just roaming around. It's kind of like Monster Hunter. I'd be terrified.
Yeah, I mean, you could have cool abilities, but I guess the natural world will also like fight back and like having like these crazy ass animals and sea kings as well and all that.
Especially the Sea Kings. Like, it seems really fun to be in this kind of world, but it just seems so much more dangerous.
I kind of feel sorry for like the regular people because they could have like their ordinary lives, but then like boom, suddenly pirates like pillaging or like stealing their gold or whatever, and then they just have to like kind of like go back and just kind of sorrow over, and then you have like the animals once again just probably like causing more chaos.
Right? You're just some regular fisherman just chilling on the harbor, and then some giant seagull snatches you up by his talons. It's a crazy world. In light of Luffy getting caught by the seagulls, Zoro starts paddling after him, and he runs into some pirates. They seem to be drowning, at least, or they're floating in the ocean. And he picks them up on the way over to Luffy, and apparently they're part of Buggy the Pirates crew. And they were recently swindled by a woman and stole their sailboat and knocked them into the ocean. And apparently, she could also read the weather really well because she ends up trapping them in this little isolated storm. So that's also a thing that happens in this world where concentrated clouds just dump hard water and lightning in very isolated locations.
I just like how Zoro's initial reaction isn't the lightning or like he found like these drowning people. He just thought, huh, this woman, she must be a really good navigator then.
Right? He seems to be a very straightforward kind of guy. But
Mm.
we also get some exposition on Buggy specifically. He has also eaten a devil fruit, just like our main character, Luffy. And that seems to be a very rare thing, like a very special thing that he's eaten a devil fruit. So what that tells us as a reader is that there's not a lot of characters who have such a thing or who have that much powers.
Yes. Uh, I think there's some I think some pirates also seem to want to sell these types of fruit to other people, without them, I guess, realizing how much of a power they could obtain by eating it. But I guess the treasure is also a valuable thing where you could, well, it's money, so of course it's gonna be valuable. Just either selling it or eating it. But
Yeah,
I guess we can. It's a, I guess, kind of a catch-22 sort of thing.
right. Because it doesn't seem like these people tend to know what the fruit does or what it even is. Like, they may be able to recognize that it's a devil fruit, but they don't really know what exactly it does unless they have prior information. Like, Shanks knew what the gum gum fruit was, but that does not seem to be the case with Buggy, as we'll get to later on. When we get his backstory,
Mhm.
it turns out that Buggy didn't know what powers he'd get from his devil fruit. He just knew it was a devil fruit and he wanted to sell it. But imagine if that was the case in real life, where we just have these things that we can just consume to give us magical powers. How would that work for us? Like, how would we react to that? How would our economy change? Would that be like a black market item? It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think it really works well in One Piece because since a lot of the world or most of it are like are smaller islands, not so much continents. From I think they're mostly islands, so I guess it's kind of a good handicap in a way where okay, you get this badass power, but you can't swim, so or well yeah, you can't swim, and your ability you can't use your ability either in the ocean water either.
Yeah, it seems like their world is primarily ocean water. Like ours is 70% ocean, but we still have massive land masses and continents that people tend to live
Yeah.
on. But that doesn't seem to be the case in One Piece. Everyone seems to make pit stops on these islands of various sizes. So,
And I also wanted to bring up something funny that I noticed that so far the both uh devil fruit users that we've seen, they seem to eat in their fruit accidentally, like without them uh n- with both of them unintentionally wanting to obtain a devil fruit power.
yeah, I also wanted to cover that as well because Luffy and Buggy seem to have similarities when it comes to their powers and how creative they are for using them. But we'll get to that in
Yeah.
a second once we get to their confrontation.
Yeah.
So at this point, after Zoro is told of the woman who stole Buggy's men's boat, we cut to her being chased by some goons in town. Meanwhile, while Luffy is flying above, still inside the bird's mouth, by the way, he gets shot down by some cannons and lands in front of him. And he's apparently fine. He's unscathed by this. And the woman immediately uses Luffy as a scapegoat to escape the pirates that are chasing her, which tells us that she's a trickster. And we see her on the cover of Volume 1, so we know she's going to be a part of our crew, of course. But the fact that she uses her brain and her wits to get ahead is completely different from Zoro and Luffy, because let's be real, they're both meatheads. Luffy's got two brain
Mhm.
cells, and Zoro's just muscle and swords. So I feel like their dynamic with her is going to be really interesting.
Yeah, and I don't think Luffy caught that. Like she just kind of like met with her, then she escaped, and then I think he was still like just confused of what was going on, but he was able to punch his way out of it and eventually move on onto the next point.
Right. And he does that immediately after meeting her, too, because he ends up punching out these pirates that she tries to
Mhm.
swindle. So we are also introduced to her properly. Her name is Nami, and she specializes in robbing pirates. And she has apparently stole a map from Buggy to the Grand Line, which is Luffy's current destination. So the chapter after that, we're introduced to the big bad Buggy the Clown himself. Apparently, he does not like people mentioning his nose, which is a big round clown nose, hence his name, Buggy the Clown. And I'm assuming it's real because he's very sensitive about it, to where someone doesn't even reference his nose directly. He just says the word nose, as in, like, he knows the location of something. And Buggy just goes apeshit on him. And so I'm assuming he can't take it off. I'm assuming it's a real nose.
Yeah, I mean, we've been seeing in the flashbacks in the manga that he had that nose for since he was younger, and
Yeah, since he
so
was a kid.
yeah, so I'm guessing he's very sensitive
So
when
it's
it
got
comes
to
to
be
his
real.
image.
Poor guy. And we also find out that the reason why he's blowing up the town, because he's been parked there for a couple days now, just occasionally shooting his cannons with his special buggy balls, just destroying whole buildings, trying to level the town. The reason why he's doing that is because some local kids seem to have made fun of his nose, like in a passing remark, and he just sort of shot at them and started blowing them up. So add that to like the killing kids counter on this whole series. It's crazy.
Yeah, we if we keep track of it, I'm sure we're gonna keep adding one like every other chapter for it.
Every story arc, we're going to go up at least a couple of dead kids. So
um,
Nami at this time also mentions that she's trying to save money to buy a whole village, and she doesn't go into any more detail than that, but I feel like that's more of Oda's writing, planting seeds for something that we're going to visit later, because she doesn't really expand on that after these couple of frames here. And that's a really interesting thing for a character to want to do. Like, she wants to buy a whole town. That's fascinating.
and I think she also mentions that that while she's very involved in pirate business, but she still doesn't enjoy pirates very much.
Yes.
Uh, and then just with the few interactions she has with Luffy, she has very like uh I guess very limited understanding of what pirates is, and I guess while they're most of them are true, uh her opinion of pirates changes when she meets Zoro and Luffy, as we'll see in a moment.
Yes. She introduces herself as absolutely hating pirates. And Luffy doesn't introduce himself as a pirate at first, but he does as they continue to talk and discuss. And her mood towards him completely changes. Like, originally, she's very nice and cordial to him, aside from, currently using him as a scapegoat. But she does a complete 180 once she finds out that he's a pirate. Now, Luffy isn't your standard pirate. As we continue, you'll start to see that a lot of them do very horrendous things to innocent people. Luffy isn't necessarily a standard pirate as far as his behavior goes. In fact, when she finds out that he's a pirate, she ties him up and drags him to Buggy as a way of offering peace, claiming that Luffy is her boss and he told her to do the things that she did to Buggy. And she's going to turn him in so that she can gain favor of Buggy. Obviously, to use him to her advantage later on as well.
Hmm.
So she starts drinking a lot of Buggy's men under the table after she unofficially joins Buggy's crew after she turns in Luffy, which I thought was pretty impressive because she's out drinking several men that are several times larger than she is. And I think that's a little fun of character quirk there.
Yeah, yeah. She can hold her liquor and just go in like on town with like all these other like grown ass pirates and like who are just already getting hit with
Right.
alcohol. But no,
And
she's fine.
yeah. And I thought this was interesting that for a kids manga, they're showing alcohol consumption. And immediately I think she has to be of legal drinking age, right? Like, she has to be.
Yeah, I think she's 18 at this time.
Yes. And for
So,
anyone listening outside the United
mm,
States, we're pretty much the only country that I'm aware of, anyway, that has the drinking age being 21. Most other places on the planet is 18, because we find out Nami is 18 later.
yeah. But also I was also thinking like maybe I mean I don't think it matters if it's real or not, but what if like she was actually not drinking alcohol and she was just drinking something else, and
Like,
since
she swathed it
everybody's
with
like
cider or
just
something.
yeah,
That would
like
explain a
apple juice
lot.
or something. Uh and then everybody, because they're all probably drunk or whatever, they probably don't notice or don't care.
That'd be the
So
smart thing to do for
yeah.
sure.
Mhm. But But yeah, we see Nami get involved with the pirates. They're partying because they caught Luffy, and I guess at the same time, Nami sided with Buggy, meaning that she's a new member. But then she has to prove her loyalty to this new crew by shooting a buggy ball at Luffy, and immediately we see her just change emotions because once again, uh she's mostly there for the money, but she's not really want to actually kill someone for money or hurt others for in the pirate business. And everybody, as like Buggy has been shown, like he's merciless. They stationed at this island and practically destroyed it with his cannonballs, but once Nami has to do it for him, she actually declines and doesn't want to do it for Buggy or for her.
Yeah, she's pretty cutthroat and she hates pirates, but she draws the line at killing. Like, she goes on record saying that she's a thief, but she's not a killer, clearly.
Hmm.
So she's backed into a corner with this. Luffy is currently caged up in this steel metal cage thing, and they have the cannon pointed right at him. The fuse is lit, and she's backed into a corner. But she ultimately sides with Luffy because, once again, she refuses to kill. And Buggy's crew starts to notice this. They start to approach her with some ill intent, and she's ended up being saved by Zoro. He manages to get there right on time, and they initiate a fight. He ends up taking out Buggy's men. He squares off against Buggy 101. And Buggy apparently knows who Zoro is. He knows that he's a pirate hunter and that taking him out would be a nice little feather on his cap. And they just go at it. Zoro cuts him down pretty quickly, pretty cleanly with just one stroke. And he starts trying to get Luffy out of the cage. But then we figure out that Buggy's crew is actually chuckling and laughing, and he ends up being stabbed in the back by a disembodied hand. Because it turns out Buggy's magical power, his devil fruit power, is that he's able to separate parts of his body. He's known as the Chop Chop Man because he's eaten the Chop Chop devil fruit. So he can disassemble parts of his body and control them almost telekinetically, allowing his parts to float midair. That's pretty crazy.
Yep, and I think also he's able to control any part of the of his body that's been separated into any direction he can. So yeah, like Gerell shared, he can control his arm, in its own will, and was able to stab Zoro unwillingly, or without Zoro noticing.
It's pretty nuts. Like, if the dude wanted to, he can separate his entire stomach and float that around his body if he wanted to. It's nuts.
Mm-hmm.
So, even though he's injured, Zoro manages to grab the cannonball that's aimed at Luffy. He lifts it up and flips it on its backside to where it's not facing Luffy anymore. It's facing Buggy and crew and ends up detonating. And in the confusion, he lifts the cage that Luffy's in. It starts bleeding all over the place from the strain. And he, Luffy, and Nami end up escaping into the town below. And they sort of recollect themselves while they figure out what to do with Buggy. And fun
And
fact,
then,
this chapter where Zoro is stabbed and saves Luffy and lifts him up in the cage, this was actually the first chapter I ever read as a kid. So this is my first introduction to
oh,
what One Piece actually was.
do you know any like reactions or any like initial thoughts from reading this chapter from back then?
10-year-old me was really fascinated with Zoro's tenacity and his strength. Like, big, strong dudes were always super appealing to me. That's why I started lifting in the first place when I was young. And that picture of him picking up Luffy has stayed with me since I was a child. So for decades, I've always had that image in the back of my head.
Oh, it's a really well done. I like the angle. It's very intense, and
It's really good.
he
And they
just
changed it in
looks
the
like a
anime.
badass. They did,
Yeah,
or
so instead of lifting Luffy on his back, he's carrying him on his stomach in a way. Like, he's lifting with his legs, and Luffy's directly in
oh,
front of him.
okay,
And it's not as an impactful shot, but
no,
what can you do? That's adaptations for you. So at this point, we get back into the town below, and Zoro passes out, and Luffy gets into a scuffle with a lion tamer. He's one of Buggy's right hand men. His name is Moji, and his lion is named Richie. The lion ends up breaking Luffy's cage while they get into a fight. Luffy kicks the lion tamer's ass and heads straight for Buggy. Also, we learn that the lion tamer is a puppy beater, and that's a thing. I wasn't really
yeah,
feeling that chapter.
yeah. When Luffy, Zoro, and Nami escaped, they met Choo Choo, a dog who's protecting their late owner's pet store. And according to another character, Major Boodle, the mayor who looks like a poodle, who's actually the mayor of the village, shares about his backstory, and he believes that while Choo Choo is not really one who doesn't seem to be uh, well, he's someone who's actually pretty smart for a dog. He still defends this store, but even through that, uh the lion tamer guy Moji, he still just beats the crap out of it, and I think he burns down the store, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Just
he burns down this poor dog's store just because. Like, I believe he breaks it in to get some food for his line and then torches the place. Dick move.
I mean, he's a lion tamer and respects his lion, but no, he just wants to kick this little dog's ass, and just like a big bully.
Hmm. So after the lion tamer is taken care of, Zoro wakes up and he ends up fighting an acrobat on a unicycle. It's a really weird gimmick, but Zoro takes care of it. He also does this by injuring himself further as a handicap because he's just insane like that. Why would he be doing that?
That yeah, it was crazy, but it was still really badass. He's like, you know what? Time out, time out. This is kind of lame. Let me just yeah, there we go.
Right? I guess it's a power move. You know, like you're about to step to somebody and you hurt yourself more than they can hurt you. That's pretty badass in a sense, but okay.
I think that was Luffy's reaction. Everybody's like disgusted and like kind of like confused, and then Luffy's like, "Wow, you're so cool, Zoro."
Exactly. It's pretty nuts. But hey, if it works for him, right? So
Hmm.
after Zoro's fight, he passes out, and me as a normal regular human, I'm thinking if you're bleeding out, the last thing you want to do is go to sleep because that's how people die,
Oh, oh no.
right? It's like the gimmick for Zoro is that he's fine. If he's hurt, he just needs to sleep and he'll be fine in the morning. Legit, in real life, dude, that's how people die. Anyway, I digress.
He follows a video game logic. Where it's like, "Oh, I'm low in health. Let me just go to sleep." And like, "Oh, I'm all good."
Let me just rest at this bonfire real quick.
uh,
So Luffy ends up fighting Buggy next, and turns out during this fight we learn that Buggy knows Red Hair Shanks and says that Luffy's hat reminds him of Shanks when they were younger. And from here we get a flashback of Buggy when he was younger. Apparently, he and Shanks used to serve on the same pirate crew when they were kids. They were apprentice pirates or basically interns, and they served together for a couple years, always just bickering and arguing. In fact, we're introduced to them arguing which pole is colder, the North Pole or the South Pole. And to be fair, I don't know. Who cares? And from here, we learn that Buggy actually blames Shanks and can't stand the guy because he ruined his plan. Because his captain and crew found a devil fruit. Buggy knows that devil fruits are worth a tremendous amount of money. He tries to sneak in, swipe it for himself, and abscond with the thing so he can sell the money and profit. But while he's talking to himself about it, Shanks overhears him and says, "Hey man, what's up?" Buggy puts the fruit in his mouth, tries to hide it because he can just fit a whole pineapple looking thing in his mouth. And he tries to get away with it. He almost does, but Shanks leaves, comes back, scares him again, and he ends up swallowing the whole thing in one gulp. He
I
ends up,
think originally, he did stole the fruit and then ate it in front of everyone, but it was like a fake devil fruit. But then, I guess he just had it on his hand again, like the real one,
yeah,
and then that's when he accidentally ate the real thing. Like they're
yeah.
all in just one big swallow.
It was some subterfuge gone wrong for sure. And he's hated Shanks ever since.
Oh, it was a double whammy too because he accidentally ate the fruit he wanted to sold for millions, and he lost a treasure map that he found by by pillaging a pirate ship, and then lost that map and lost the fruit. So now him and Shanks are just enemies,
Yeah,
according to Buggy.
he lost two things that day, and he's been bitter about it for years. I don't know how old he is. I'm guessing he's like maybe close to 30, but dude can hold a grudge for decades.
Yeah.
So when Buggy discovers that Luffy's hat is basically Shanks' hat and that Luffy values it, Buggy during their fight would target the hat specifically and cut into it in several occasions, throwing Luffy into like a berserker rage. And turns out in this fight, they're pretty evenly matched. Like, they both have long ranged abilities. They are both tricksters when it comes to fighting. Luffy doesn't exactly fight that straightforward. He uses these weird techniques that he comes up with to sort of bamboozle his enemy, but muscles his way through the fight anyway. Whereas Buggy, once again, uses his ranged techniques. He uses his body to bamboozle his enemies, tricks them, confuses them, and then goes for the kill with like a backstab or something. And it's a really fun fight. Tons of fascinating choreography, good angles, good like money shots. This is really fun to read.
Yeah, I like them. We both of them seem to like just exercise like their different techniques, and while I sometimes we think of devil fruits as like a good thing or a bad thing, I think in a battle between these two, I think it was they were, like you said, it was pretty evenly matched, and both had like their own quirks to kind of like go against each other.
Yeah, it was real fun. I enjoyed this fight a lot. Uh, Luffy ends up defeating Buggy, of course, because he's our protagonist, and he does so by Nami tying up various parts of Buggy's body while they're in midair. So where he's only essentially his feet, a couple hands, and his head that are left, he tries to contract his body to return all of his pieces to normal. But all of his major body parts are bound and tied up with Nami, and all that's left are just his hands, feet, and head. So he's just this really tiny little thing. And Luffy punches him all the way across the map. He actually sends him literally flying. And one thing I noticed as a kid was that the way that Oda draws this panel was that it looked like Luffy was doing like a Kamehameha in a way, because he's got his hands together, and the line art looks like some kind of energy wave was coming out of his hands. And so for years, I thought that Luffy can just shoot ki blasts out of his hands, and he just doesn't do it anymore until I watched the anime years later, when it's just, oh no, he just smacked him so hard that he sent him flying. Okay, that's not as fun.
Uh, yeah, well, I'm looking at the panel, and I can see that now too.
Right? Like, just the way he draws it, it looks
Yeah.
like energy beams.
Mhm. I started watching the anime first, so I knew that he could stretch, but just looking at the panel itself, I can see that I can see that there.
Right? I was waiting for years to see him do it again. Never does it. I was a fool. But yeah, this arc
But
was really fun. I
mhm.
enjoyed it a lot.
And then with this victory, they were able to manage to find the map to the Grand Line, and by defeating the Luffy's not Luffy's, by defeating Buggy's crew, they also obtained Nami as their navigator, and were able to sail off onto the next island. But they also made a couple of friends with Major Boodle and Choo Choo as well,
Yeah.
where Choo Choo even defended them, um, at some point, because by this time all the villagers that were there, moved away to safety, but in the whole kerfuffle, um, one of the funnier moments for me was when Luffy grabbed the mayor and knocked him out by slamming him against the wall, so he wouldn't get involved in the fight.
Yeah. Tough love.
And then when the village people came back to look for the mayor, they asked, "Oh, mayor, what happened to you? Who hurt you?" Luffy just puts himself to blame. He's like, "Oh, I did it. I knocked him out," and
What?
that was their cue to run away.
He knocked out a mayor. Get him. Dumbass.
But with only having half the information, they ran away. But Choo Choo, actually knowing what happened, actually stopped the people from getting the crew, and I think they did acknowledge it. But once again, the village people were confused why Choo Choo was defending them until the mayor walked up and he also was grateful for helping them. Even though Luffy and crew were pirates, they still defended them against other meaner pirates.
Yeah, the mayor knows what's up. And Luffy doesn't feel like he needs to explain himself to strangers. He got what he wanted, the people are safe, that's all he seems to care about.
Yep.
And Nami joins the crew, as you said, but seems to be a temporary alliance. She doesn't want to actually become a pirate. She's working with them specifically so she can get treasure along the way. So I'm assuming she's not going to stay with us for that long. Or maybe she'll change her mind later down the line. It'll be fun to see how that goes.
Yeah. Cause she still uses her own ship when they travel to the other one.
I
Well, the
noticed
one
that.
she stole. Yeah, the one she stole from the other buggy pirates.
Right. And like if you were a novelist or something like that, that would be a really interesting thing to put into your story to show that she's not completely with our characters. She's willing to ride along with them, but she's still on her own thing. She's still on her own ship because she's going to be doing her own thing. And I kind of like that aspect of it.
Yeah.
But so far, what's your
Uh,
opinion on our new crew member, Nami, or temporary ally, Nami?
I like her. I think she's very interesting. Where I think so far we've seen pirates just use their brute strength to get what they want, but with Nami, she's more clever and actually, I think she does more like a more quick thinking and uses stuff at her disposal. With like, she was being chased by pirates, but then when Luffy, fell from the sky, she just put the blame on him as a easy way out. So she's not the strongest one, but she is one who's very clever. So just kind of like using anything at her disposal to get what she wants as well. Makes me very interested in her.
But yeah, I like her for pretty much the same reasons you said as well. I personally love trickster style characters. They appeal to me a lot. I also like characters who know what they want, and she lets us know what she wants pretty immediately. She hates pirates. She loves money. That's all I need to know. It's great. So, in the next chapter, which is kind of a bit of a filler chapter, we get some lore from Luffy, or really Oda telling us, the audience, what's going on. So, Luffy is after what's known as the One Piece. And the One Piece is a treasure that you find in the Grand Line itself, which is why he's going after it. And I'm assuming once you find the One Piece, that's what makes you the Pirate King. That's pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And it explains why the show itself is called One Piece. Up until this point, it was just a title without any meaning or significance. We also
And I
get.
think in the first chapter, this was the treasure from Gold Roger, the I guess first pirate king, who obtained. But the last words on this before he was executed was to find it, to become to obtain the treasure he obtained as the king of the pirates. So we still don't know what it is. Um, uh, about 20 chapters in, but um, hopefully we get a little bit more info along the line.
Yes. And we also get a map of the world, which is really interesting to me because most times in a fantasy story, you'll get some form of geography so that the reader knows where the main characters are starting. That way, we also know where they're going because so far, One Piece just has Luffy go from place to place, and we have no idea which direction he's going. But now we actually have a destination, and Nami further explains what the map means because Luffy can't read a map. The world is actually divided into two massive oceans that are separated by a equally massive strip of land. It covers the planet essentially from North Pole to South Pole and all the way around on both sides. And according to Nami, the equator essentially that goes around the planet is what the Grand Line actually is. And the only person to, as she says, rule the Grand Line was Gold Roger, who was the last Pirate King, the same guy that we saw at the beginning of Chapter 1 on the first page. We don't really get much about him save for that one page from 20 chapters ago. The Grand
Yeah.
Line is also called the Pirates' Graveyard. Anyone who manages to somehow come back from the Grand Line, they are disheveled, they are shells of their former selves. It seems to be a terrible place to be.
Yeah, I think even Gaimon who's the little character we see at this island for this I think one or two chapters he says that he has seen pirates come back from the Grand Line just defeated and just zombified from just the horrors of the Grand Line.
Seems like a great place to get an Airbnb, for sure.
Yeah.
So after their run in with Gaimon, they head to their next location. Their goal now is to get a proper ship because so far they're in a little rowboat and a small little ship. They have like one sail on each boat. It's barely a boat at all. And so Nami wants to make a pit stop at this nearby island where they can hopefully purchase a ship or acquire it in some way. And here's where we meet the character Usopp. Usopp is the village liar who has this really long nose. And because he's a liar and because he has a long nose, it immediately strikes Pinocchio references to me.
Yeah. Yeah, like or like the boy who cries wolf, sort of like like a folk tale almost.
Yeah, there seems to be a
Mhm.
lot of references with Usopp. Like you said, the boy who cries wolf, and one of the first lines he says is "The pirates are coming. The pirates are coming." It reminds me of Paul Revere, the American
Oh
historical figure.
yeah.
You know, the guy who
Uh
was famous for saying "The British are coming. The British are coming." I feel that vibe from him too.
yeah, so I guess for like our viewers who don't know who don't know early American history, he was one of I guess he was part of like the American Revolution in like in the early oh no, I think probably late 1800s uh when the when the British were stationed and then
Seventeen
they were
hundreds.
gonna attack. Yeah, which ones? I'm sorry. The
1700s. The 1800s was a completely different era.
oh no no yeah yeah 1700. Sorry. uh, but yeah, he rode his horse and woke up everyone else because yep the British they were coming onto the land.
Yeah, he was supposed to write. He was supposed to light two different types of lanterns: one if by sea, two if by land, that sort of thing, or vice
Hmm.
versa. I haven't been in high school in a very long time. So
Yeah.
Luffy and crew meet up with Usopp. They hit it off right away. They seem to get along really well. Uh, they meet up at this restaurant and they're eating, they're drinking, they're having a good time. Luffy tells Usopp that they're looking for a ship, and Usopp's like, "Hey, I know where we can possibly get a ship. It's with my friend named Kaya. She's a really wealthy woman. Uh, Kaya has come into a lot of money because her mom and dad were rich. However, unfortunately, they passed away from sickness, and she seems to be coming down with, if not the same sickness, but another possibly lethal sickness."
And also wanted to share something before we got any further. I think in the anime they added like a another interaction between Luffy and Usopp. I don't know if you remember it. Um because you know when they arrived to the island uh the Usopp did had a little pirate crew with three kids, Pepper, Onion, and Carrot.
Yes.
And then one of them actually saw Luffy from far away, and their ships, and you know Nami stealing one of Buggy's ships. It had his Jolly Roger on it. So that's when they went off to try to defend the village themselves. Um, but in the anime, I remembered Usopp tried to he was up in the hill, I think, and you know Luffy and crew were on the beach. He pulled out his a slingshot and he tried to like shoot them with it, but then Luffy copied one of the lines from Shanks from when he was little, where he said, "Oh, I don't remember the exact words, but he said something like, oh, you know, weapons aren't for bluffing. If you're really gonna use that, then you're willing to put your life on the line for it."
Oh,
or
that is
something
so
like that.
corny, Luffy.
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
So I think in the anime he gave a look at Zoro and he's like, follow my league. So then completely serious. You have that that serious Luffy look on him, and he told this to Usopp, and then Usopp was just shaking in his boots. He's like, okay, okay, you know what? I'm not a pirate. Just leave me alone. I'm not gonna hurt you. And then just both Luffy and Zoro just laugh at him. He's like, oh, we're messing with you. We're not gonna kill you. You're all right.
yeah, they don't. Parts of that was in the manga, such as I believe his name was Onion. He's the one who sees them from a distance. He sees Nami still with, still flying Buggy's pirate flag, or at least his sail has Buggy's picture on it. Uh, Usopp tries to warn them from a distance, and he says, "I got 10,000 men" or something like that. And Nami's like, "You're lying." Oh crap! She found out. How does she know? And she's like, "See, I
Yeah.
told you he's lying."
Yeah, I have 80 million under the pirate Usopp gang. It's like, no, you don't. It's
It
like,
would be
oh
more
no.
believable if he says like he has 100, maybe 1,000, but like he shoots for some high numbers. Come on, man, you got to bring it back a little bit. But
I don't even think anyone's able to know 80 million people.
no, no, you don't even have that many friends on Facebook. It's impossible.
No.
Or what was it, MySpace? Everyone in the MySpace days, they would add literally everybody under the sun. So I had friends that had like 30,000 friends on MySpace. I'm like, you don't know that many people.
But
Anyway,
I still don't understand that either. It's like, oh, look how many followers I have, and then, in my head, my first reaction is like, well, do you know all of those individual followers?
and that's
Like,
why they changed
no.
their name from friends to followers, because we were middle schoolers at the time. We are like, you don't have 30,000 friends. You barely have four.
Yeah.
But nowadays we have followers, which is not nearly as creepy. I'm being
Yeah.
sarcastic. It's very creepy. But whatever. So our next destination is to get to Kai's mansion. So Usopp, Luffy, and the kids, they all go to Kai's mansion and try to basically get a ship from her. But they're stopped by Klahadore, who is Kaya's personal butler, and they start to exchange words. He insults Luffy, he insults Usopp, he starts calling him names, and then he starts talking trash about Usopp's dad, who turns out to
I
actually be a
know that.
pirate.
Yeah, he was getting personal. Like, one thing's like, if he doesn't like Usopp, but then he was attacking family. I feel like that there was like a line crossed now.
Right, and Usopp seems to be a very chill guy for the most part, but once his dad was mentioned, it flipped a switch on him, and he started to actually physically assault Claudor. He just decks him right in the face onto the ground. And Usopp doesn't even seem like a physically dominant type of character. He's kind of a string bean, but he just decks him as hard as he can.
Yeah, it was very satisfying. Just everybody's like, "Oh wow, Usopp, what the hell, man?"
Dude, Usopp, chill, bro. But from that point, they exchange words, and Clawhador makes this big old huff about it. Kaya is very distraught. She doesn't seem to be accustomed to violence. And Clawhador makes Usopp leave and swears for him to never come back. Usopp agrees. And at this point, it seems like Usopp and Kaya's friendship is over. Now, a little backstory with Usopp and Kaya. So they met each other when they were young because Kaya was the wealthy girl in the village, and she was sickly. Everyone knew about it. Usopp wanted to go to her to start telling her stories to sort of cheer her up, hoping that maybe his tales will give her something to be happy about, to keep her smiling and laughing, which I think is really sweet and noble of him.
Also notice like another difference. I guess this one's a little minor. One, I think in the manga, we see that Kaya has her room is like on the first floor, and the I think in the anime she was like on the second floor, and Usopp would like climb a tree and like sit on the branch to talk to Kaya, which I thought it looked really sweet, like how he was like on the outside and she was on the inside like that.
Yeah, I remember that actually, because going back and reading this, I'm like, it's a little weird for her bedroom to be on the first floor. And he's still sitting by a tree. He's just like putting his back on the tree. But I think it's a lot more visually pleasing for him to climb the tree, sit on the branches while they're up above. I find that more visually pleasing rather than him just being on the ground level.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've been friends for years. He would constantly go over to her place. They would talk, and they seem to have a nice friendship. However, this interaction with Klahadore is putting that in jeopardy, and that's unfortunate. But after he was upset, Usopp leaves. He goes to the beach to cool his head. Apparently, that's his go-to place. Luffy ends up meeting him there, and they have a little bonding moment because turns out Usopp's dad was Yasopp, who was a member of Shanks' crew. So Luffy used to hang out with Usopp's dad when he was young.
Yeah, and I think he first confronts Usopp and tells him like, I knew your father and he's a great pirate. So I have, respect for him. And then that really cheer up Usopp to know that well, maybe he doesn't communicate a whole lot with his dad, but him knowing that he's he's hanging out, he not only is he like a great pirate, but he's hanging out with with Redhead Shanks, who I think he also heard about, and another pirate that he respected as well, was he just made him feel all the better with everything that was going on.
Yeah, and
Mm.
Yasopp actually talks about Usopp a lot when he's hanging out with Luffy. Like, he mentions him all the time to the point where Luffy's like, okay, enough. You talk about him all the time. I don't care. But Yasopp's like, all right, I told you about him. Cool. I'm going to tell you about him 1,000 more times. And I thought that was super cute.
Yeah. I
It's like,
know. I love how much they look alike to each other, um and yeah, that was a really cute moment from them too.
absolutely. Love to see it.
Yeah.
And it pained Yasopp to be away from his son, but uh, as he said, the sea was calling him and he had to do what made him happy. And unfortunately, that separated him from his family. There's going to be a ton of opinions about that, but hey, what can you do? So while they're bonding, the two of them, Luffy and Usopp, overhear a meeting between the butler from earlier, Klahadore, and this Michael Jackson impersonator by the name of Django. They're at the beach with them. So to paint a picture, Luffy and Usopp are on this little cliff bluff thing, elevated by like maybe 20, 30 feet, and Klahadore and the butler are below them, still in the sand, where the waves are meeting the sand. And they're discussing some plans. Apparently, for the past 3 years, Klahadore has been working for Kai's family to win their favor in order to later kill them. So they're discussing in a plan to assassinate Kaya. So, turns out Klahadore's real name was Captain Kuro, who was the captain of the Black Cat Pirates. And he faked his death 3 years prior, went to this island to usurp their money, take it for himself, and go. And he had his crew continue to be pirates on their own, Django being his right-hand man. He's returned, ready to enact their plan, and it's go time whenever the captain gives the word. And at this point, Luffy just straight up yells, "Hey, don't kill Kaya." And they're like, "Oh, snap. These kids are here?" And Luffy's like, "We heard everything." And Usopp's like, "What are you doing?"
I just like how in that interaction, what Usopp was telling him, he was doing the opposite. Like, no, let's get out of here. Then Luffy just confronts them directly.
Yep, two brain cells working at one point. So at this point, Luffy and crew, they start to formulate a plan to stop Klahadore because the plan is to attack at dawn, and it's not yet dawn, it's still nighttime. And so they're going to set up a trap at the beach where they think the pirates are going to land and storm the island. And turns out they're at the wrong beach. There's a north beach and a south beach. They overheard the pirates at the south beach. They set up the trap at the south beach. Turns out the pirates are actually landing on the north beach, on the opposite side of the island. So Usopp books it. Luffy books it. Nami gets snared in their trap. They have this little oil slick on the ground because it's a slope going upwards. She starts to slip. She grabs Zoro. She throws him to the ground and uses him as leverage and also books it. Zoro's just trapped and stuck there. It's so sad.
I thought it was a good plan, but it was just that one fatal like error just messed it up.
Yep. They're at the wrong place. It's unfortunate. And I like this little moment with Zoro and Nami. It establishes a little bit of their relationship and how Zoro can't stand her. So sorry to all the Zoro and Nami shippers out there, if there are any. I don't think this is going to happen.
Yeah,
But
I think I guess another thing I wanted to bring up, like you know, they've been in good times and bad times, but I feel like even though they're like on the same pirate crew, they still, I guess have a hard time like getting along with each other. What's like, oh, we're just gonna fight each other for the smallest things.
yeah, and Jenko also mentions that with his crew. Like, even though they're professional pirates, if they're standing around for too long, he even mentions that his own men are ready to cut their own throats or each other's throats because they keep bickering. But that's pirates for you.
Yeah, they're
So,
bloodthirsty.
yes. So, Klahador's old pirate crew and Luffy's crew, they end up going head to head. Usopp gets there a little earlier. He starts shooting these different types of ammunition at them because he's got that slingshot, like you said. That seems to be a special weapon. Nami comes in to back him up. They get overwhelmed really quickly. Zoro shows up. Later, Luffy shows up, and it's just absolute chaos. And it's a fun fight. I'm just going to skip the whole thing for the most part because there's a lot happening. It's a really fun thing, whether you're watching in the anime or you're reading in the manga. It's really satisfying. They have a ton of great moments. I'm going to list a few of them that I made notes of. Luffy gets lost on the way to the fight because he doesn't know where the North Beach is. He doesn't even know what direction North is at all. He just goes in whatever direction he thinks is coldest. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, and I love it. It's great. Usopp also has a badass moment where he gets clocked in the back of the head. He's got blood gushing all down his face, and he still stands tall and says to himself, or he says to Nami, that he's going to protect Kaya from the pirates so that they have just another boring day on the island. They will not have a pirate invasion like he keeps yelling every day. Luffy also loses some brain matter in this fight. He ends up getting a chakram into the back of his head, literally embedded in it, and he just pulls it out. There's also a moment where he continuously gets hypnotized in this fight, and it's not even on purpose. Like, the hypnotist doesn't even aim his little chakram thing that he used to hypnotize people. Doesn't even aim it at Luffy. He aims it at his own crew to make them stronger, like a buff or something like that. And he ends up hypnotizing Luffy anyway, as Nami says, because he's too damn dumb.
Oh, I think I remember that. Yeah.
He just goes berserk. He starts beating the crap out of everybody. He goes up to their mast, rips the mast off with his bare hands. Because even though he's like super twiggy, he's got some beef packed in there. Like, I guess the rubber just keeps his body so compact. But once he starts flexing, he's got like the strength of Schwarzenegger or something. And he just tears parts of the boat off and is about to whack him with it. It's crazy.
I think he keeps getting hypnotized too, like multiple times. Because I think the first time too, when him and Usopp were overhearing the plan, he got hypnotized there. Then I think
Yeah, they made him
sometime
fall
again
asleep.
in the fight. Yeah.
Like, this poor boy. Also during the fight, we get a flashback of Captain Kuro in his pirate days. It's a really simple flashback. He gets tired of being a pirate. He's tired of being chased by the Navy all the time. He wants to retire, but have like this grand old plan to be rich and not have to be in hiding. His last big fight is actually with Captain Axehand Morgan's crew, one of the big bads from chapter 3 or 4. In the Navy base where Zoro was being captured, the leader of that base, with the metal jaw and the axe for a hand, he and his crew got their ass handed to them by Captain Kuro and got his jaw broken during this fight. We actually don't see his hand during this fight. I was looking for it because I recognized his face and I had to do a quick Google search to see if that was him. Turns out it was, and he was hypnotized into thinking that the guy that they got dressed up in Captain Kuro's coat was actually Captain Kuro. They used a body double essentially. He got the credit for it. He got getting promoted faster and faster because of this fight. It ended up going to his head, and that's the origin of Captain Morgan. So we get that in this little chapters as well. That's wonderful. Also,
Interesting.
during the cover pages between the chapters, Oda starts doing these little sub stories about Buggy the Clown and what he's up to after he got stomped out by Luffy. He's sailing to other islands. He's running away from massive animals trying to eat him. It's fun. But after this fight, Luffy beats Kuro, of course, main character, and he ends up saving Kaya. He saves the village. Everyone's knocked out. It's great. At this point, Kaya gives him the ship that they're looking for, known as the Going Merry. It was designed by one of her other butlers, who's a sheep man, goat man. And I guess he's also just a shipwright, shipbuilder on his off time, because dude just designed this ship by himself, apparently. And they have this little vessel now. And on top of that, Usopp says goodbye to those kids that he's friends with in the village. He disbands his little pirate crew, the Usopp Pirates. It's adorable and sad. Says goodbye to Kaya, and he joins Luffy's crew. So we got a new member.
Potentially a captain for this crew.
Second captain. I can see it now. Like, whenever Luffy is not around, Usopp's going to be claiming to be captain, and he's going to end up taking credit.
Yeah. I mean, I guess technically he was already a captain of his own crew. So now
Technically,
he joined this one.
yeah. This was also a fun one. I like the choreography a lot. There's a moment where Kuro is standing on Luffy's fist. That was really neat. Zoro's fight was real fun. Nami doing her thing is great. Like, this was a really fun series of chapters, and it goes really well in line with what we know of the story so far. It added a little bit of lore to it, brought Captain Morgan back, got to see a little bit of Buggy. It was fun.
Yeah. Do you have any like favorite new characters that appeared like these new chapters that we read?
Uh, if you are a fan of the Nun Piece Abridged series on YouTube by Purple Eyes WTF, Mary is really fun. It's this YouTube parody, like an abridged series, and he takes Mary and just makes him so goofy and so silly. And so I was just making quotes in my head while I was reading it. uh,
Oh,
it's a really fun little mini series. You guys should check it out at Purple Eyes WTF called Nun Piece. It's really good.
no.
But aside from that, I'm kind of basic. I like Luffy, Zoro, and Nami a lot. Like, even in future chapters and future story arcs, they're still my favorite three.
Yeah.
So any scene that I get to see the three of them interact, like Luffy eating the fishbone at the dinner, and Zoro's like, "You really need to work on your fishbone eating technique," and Nami's like, "Normal people don't eat fishbones. What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Little moments like that stuck out for me. But how about you?
Uh, from what we've seen at the video art, my favorite character from my favorite character from the series is Usopp. So, it's been a while since I've seen his origin story again, but I really enjoyed it, and it wasn't super like bigger or maybe action packed like in with Buggy, but I just love him as a character. Where once again similar to Nami, where maybe his strength isn't his strongest, but just using his own like intelligence and doing what he can at his disposal. Just I don't know, it just makes me very happy to see him like achieve so much. And even with him making up the stories with Kaya, it just makes me very, I don't know, it just makes me very happy just seeing him on there. um also Buggy is probably another favorite character of mine, of how both of them have some similarities where I think both of them are pretty goofy
Yeah,
characters. um I guess both of them also have funny noses.
They do.
Um, yeah. So so it's funny. Just like I guess I have a thing for people or just characters in One Piece with like uh, unusual noses and but you know like them not being the strongest characters, but you know having other qualities that makes them like still you know prosper, um you know in their own ways, of course.
Right. And
Um
I'm gonna be honest with you. My
yeah.
first time reading this story as a kid, I could not stand Usopp. I hated him so much. He's just not the kind of character that appeals to me. Like I don't really like characters that lie for the sake of it. I don't really like coward type of characters. But
Hmm.
going through this again, I see the appeal in him. You know, like
Yeah.
him going up to Kaya and telling her those stories to make her feel better because he sees a little bit of a kindred spirit in them. Uh, Also, we find
Mhm.
out that his parents passed away, or his mother specifically passed away of disease. And so I imagine when he heard that Kaya's parents did the same thing, that probably compelled him to go to her and tell
Oh,
her stories
okay.
too, because he went through something similar. Like, people always come together through tragedy. And I thought that was a beautiful little moment. And I noticed that Zoro brings this up specifically, that Zoro, Luffy, and Nami specifically wanted to help out Usopp, not because they cared about the village or necessarily Kai's life, is because Usopp won them over from his bravery, his tenacity, and his heart, just caring for the people that he lives with, caring about his neighbors, caring about his friends. That's something that spoke to them. And so they weren't really fighting and risking their lives for the village per se, they're risking their lives for him. And
Yeah.
I can see that. Like, he was winning me over. And that says a lot because I'm a difficult person to win over.
Yeah.
But I loved it.
That's a very interesting point. I forgot about that about Usopp's parents. That you know we know that his father that we know of so far that you know he's with Shanks, but yeah, his mother passed away at when he was still pretty young,
Hmm.
and so did Kaya's parents as well.
And what stuck with me about Usopp's mom was that she said she didn't regret marrying Yasopp, even though he's gone and he left, he's doing his own thing. She still loved him. And that's really sweet.
Hmm.
I mean, as you're probably aware, in these modern times, love isn't real, love is fake. So when I see it in stories, it's like, oh, love is real.
Yeah, I think even like Usopp knowing that actually I think in the manga or not the manga, I think in the anime, uh, this is I don't know if it's me misremembering, but I think whenever Usopp did saw some pirates, he immediately thought it was his dad coming back. So
Yes,
I think that's why he started like telling the villagers like, "Oh, look, pirates are coming."
because
But then
he's hoping
like,
one day his dad will come back.
yeah, oh man,
Ah, this stuff cuts deep.
I know. Oda, you done it again.
Otis is a really good writer. Like, he's planting
Hmm.
seeds, he's capitalizing on it, he's making characters relate to each other emotionally. That allows us to connect to them emotionally because, I mean, that's true to life. You know, parents get sick and die, younger people get sick and die. It's a fact. People can connect with it, and that hits home. Familiar relationships with children always hits me freaking hard. And so,
Yeah.
like, anytime I see stuff like that, it's like, okay, I'm in. And Oda wrote this pretty well. I mean, my only nitpick with the story arc so far is that I didn't really care much for the dog in Orange Town. I thought that was a really weird turn, but I was along for the ride. But I personally didn't much care for it. And
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Kuro's plan in general to serve this wealthy family for 3 years, the mother and father died without his interference. At first, I thought he murdered them because that would make sense, but no, they just happened to die. And so his next plan was to spend even more time with their daughter, then hypnotize her into giving her or giving Kuro his estate while hypnotized, and then killing her, making it look like an accident. Even Django says, "We're going to accident her to death." I thought that was fun. But
Yeah.
the plan itself was so convoluted and kind of dumb. They even mentioned, "Why don't you just kill them and take the money?" And he responds with, "Well, because then I'm going to be on the run. Why don't you just do it good and not get caught, and you'll be fine."
Yeah, I mean, I that one comment by Django I thought was funny. It's like, okay, we have this plan, like why, but couldn't we just just straight up and kill her? And
Ooh,
it's like, no, has to be convoluted as hell, man.
yes. And on top of that, I actually have an answer to your question. My favorite character is Django. He walks backwards. He's just a Michael Jackson reference. It's great. I just remembered that.
I think Carrot or one of the kids from Usopp's crew noticed him, and uh, uh, I guess it was kind of a tough day for him because the other two were, already with everyone else, but then it was him who noticed Luffy at first, so he got scared. He came back again the next day, and then he met this weirdo walking backwards. I think he was moonwalking, wasn't he?
He moonwalks everywhere. I don't think he ever walks forward.
Yeah, then he keeps getting scared again and again. He's like, "What's happening to our island with all these
Poor
weird people?"
Onion. Like, Carrot and Pepper seem like real chill, just kids. Onion is just constantly screaming and crying. He's the most Usopp out of the whole group.
I know,
Also,
but
fun fact, because between some of these chapters, we get some information about Zoro and how Oda originally had written him. We get a little picture of Zoro actually being conceived as Buggy's bodyguard. So he was working with Kabaji, the trapeze artist, unicycle guy, and Moji, the lion tamer. He was going to be one of Buggy's men. I thought that was super cool.
oh yeah, that's right.
And that would kind of make sense because he wields
Yeah,
three swords. That seems to be like a circus type thing. Maybe he was like a sword juggler or something like that.
yeah, yeah.
But Oda says that he eventually decided to change it because it didn't fit right. And I think he did it for the best, but I thought that was some interesting information.
Hmm.
And then as the chapters went on, I noticed more SBSs, which is what he calls his question and answer corner. I wanted to share some of those, but there was a lot more than I thought. Some of them were really goofy. Like one of them was his audience asking what were Nami's measurements, like her bust, waist, hip
Oh,
size.
really?
Yes.
Oh,
And Oda says, "Okay, wait 1 second. I'm gonna go get those right away." And he like writes a little skit for himself with Nami, and she says, "No, you can't have my measurements unless you got the money." And he's like, "What? Okay, how much? I can't afford that. Oh no!" And then he's like, "Oh quick, she's distracted. I'm gonna get them now." Then he writes that she slaps him or something, and he's like mentally and emotionally defeated. And he says, "Hold on, dear reader, I'll get those for you one day." I'm like, this is
oh
so
boy.
dumb. Just these two pervs just bonding over this, and Oda's just taking it and running. He's a funny guy.
Yeah, I
But
mean, I think, um, I heard it from somewhere where like a lot of times people who know how to write comedy, they can also know how to like write tragedy. Where it's kind of like, in a way, it's the similar process, but it's just a different emotion. So I think Oda can do some pretty badass writing.
it's very Shakespearean.
Hmm.
Yeah, because you gotta cry and you gotta laugh.
Yeah.
Dude can do both, and I respect it.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of both in One Piece, that's for sure.
Plenty. And we're going to be covering that in our next episode. We're going to be covering what's next.
I think it's
Ooh,
Barati
we're
or
going to be
Barate.
covering Barati.
Oh,
Heck yeah.
yeah.
Barati's a good one, folks. You're not going to want to miss this one.
A lot of big events happening too.
Yes. And unlike this one, which was a two-part or two arc video, we're going to be covering Barati by itself as an isolated video because there's a lot going on in that story arc.
Mhm. Yeah, so I guess I also wanted to mention that when I was reading this part with the Buggy Pirates, me and my family were at the flea market, and there's a stand that sells like this really nice authentic luchador mask. So they have like the classic like luchadors, and you know what luchadors are? They're Mexican wrestlers who wear a mask. Most of them do, and this person, according to him, he said that he brought many of them from like the actual like center, where they have the Mexican wrestling at, which is at Estadio Azteca in Mexico City, and
Ooh,
one of them caught my eye because it's one that I haven't seen before, and I'll hopefully we can put a picture of it on the YouTube video, but
doing it.
it's the Buggy Jolly Roger on a mask, and it's really cool. I send it to you. I don't know if you remember that, Gerell.
Heck yeah, they can see it on screen right now.
Yeah, and uh, it was such an impulse buy, but I still love it. It's very comfy too because it's really good material. I just think it looks really cool.
It's pretty dope. I think that's a good
Yeah.
purchase.
I'm probably thinking maybe like wearing it like at a convention or something, but we'll see. We'll see about that.
You can do like a costume with it, you know.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like if you don't want to go with the spandex, I've seen plenty of luchadors like when they're on the mic or something, they're wearing like a whole tuxedo or something.
Yeah.
That'd be
That's
pretty
what I
dope.
did for Halloween. That's what I usually do for Halloween.
Well, there you go.
So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
So I hope to see you guys again. I had a wonderful time, and we'll see you guys next time.
Alrighty. Thank you guys for listening. So hope you guys will see you in the next one. And take care.
All right, goodbye.